The Canadian Securities Exchange is hosting a group of entrepreneurs and people looking to support the blockchain community and the development of blockchain technologies in Montreal.
We have done this right across Canada with the CSE. This is the first time we've done it here in Montreal. We had close to 150 people attend, great energy, probably at least a dozen to 20 companies that are involved in blockchain.
There are a lot of different ways to participate in what we think of as the blockchain revolution at this point. On the Canadian Securities Exchange, we have, I think, 28 companies that are pursuing different blockchain-related opportunities at this point. And I should say that this is distinct from cryptocurrency trading. So we're not talking about buying Bitcoin or Ether or one of the other cryptocurrencies. These are companies that are using the underlying technologies to try to solve real-world problems.
So what's blockchain? Well, blockchain's really a distributed ledger. It's a database. But if it helps folks think of it this way, imagine you wrote a check and then you wrote a little ledger note in your checkbook saying that, well, I wrote this check on this day. Now imagine if that little entry into your ledger was now spread out to computer servers all over the world who now had that record. If you later went back and wanted to erase that little record that you wrote down, those computer servers would already have the record and you couldn't change it. So in other words, what we're doing is we're creating a database that is spread out among many computers, could be worldwide, and it creates an immutable ledger or record of some form of transaction. What that transaction is, that depends on the application you're using blockchain for.
Bitcoin and Ethereum and the other cryptocurrencies, I like to think of them as commodities. Blockchain is the technology that underlies the provision of those and creation of those commodities and how they're transacted amongst different people who wish to buy and sell those cryptocurrencies.
Right now the big thing has been Bitcoin, but really if you sort of tear that away underneath, there's a technology layer that really is going to become pervasive at one point. And that is the idea of blockchain, and it will build upon it many different applications. And each of these applications is going to bring with it new challenges, not only in terms of business, but in terms of law. Today we really talked about the securities industry, initial coin offerings, and how we're really facing sort of definitional challenges. If you have a coin offering, is it a currency? We know it's not legal tender. How does the law relate to it? Is the law going to protect the interest of investors, and so on?
Blockchain itself has applications, we think, far beyond that cryptocurrency world. And we're going to see in the coming years banks and other financial services companies use it in their back office processing. We're going to see manufacturers use it in their supply chains and in their manufacturing systems. So this has the potential to revolutionize just about every business process that we're familiar with today.
The biggest implication for a retail investor is that eventually the trade will be immediate.
We want to be able to list companies that have issued tokenized securities to the public. These tokens, which again is another feature of blockchain technology, will be basically your share certificate in the new world. Companies that issue these certificates will see an entirely different system as far as how they communicate with their shareholders. They will actually know who their individual shareholders are. This changes shareholder communications, investor relations, proxy voting. For dealers, using the blockchain in the trading and clearing and settlement processes means that they can save tremendous amounts of money that are currently tied up with the legacy clearing and settlement infrastructure that we have in place in Canada. For investors, we're going to see a tremendous number of new products. One of the things that the blockchain does is it eliminates friction around payment of dividends and royalties and so on. And it eliminates errors. It makes it extremely cost effective for companies to create these kinds of vehicles. So what we hope to see are companies creating these new investment vehicles that will provide investors with new income streaming type products. The CSE is in the process of developing a clearing system which will use blockchain technology so that we can not just list the security tokens, but we can extend the benefits that I talked about before to the issuers, to the dealers, and ultimately to the investors of this new and exciting technology.
So some of the legal implications when you're investing in the area of blockchain. And really here I'm getting into the area of securities laws. One of the favorite creations of the blockchain world are these tokens that are then used, they're traded basically between buyers and sellers. And as we saw with Bitcoin, the underlying value, the real world value, can vary greatly. And so the question is there any government oversight of this sector of those tokens? And securities regulators have been very anxious with all of the movings and goings on in the sector, and have now started to take the position that in some cases these things are securities, and they're going to regulate them in the same way that they will regulate stock trades and similar instruments, debt instruments as well.
One of the questions that comes up a lot from the investors is, when I buy Bitcoin and I sell it, what exactly are the tax implications on that?
There's been very little guidance out there from the tax authorities as to what a cryptocurrency really is. CRA has suggested that it's a commodity and should be taxed as a commodity, perhaps either on income account or on capital account. So in one scenario, you could be fully taxed on any profits you make from selling a cryptocurrency. And in another scenario, you could be taxed only 50%, depending on your intent which you acquired and your actions that you've undertaken. Our firm, MNP, has put forward that none of the existing accounting standards necessarily apply to a Bitcoin held by a Bitcoin miner. And we, have many public companies, have created a digital asset policy. So you've gotten through some of those issues. You now have to deal with a public accounting firm that is going to audit your transactions and audit your financial statements. Well, that again is a new world. How do they verify that transactions existed, that they occurred, that they were real? How does the auditor get his handle on, do you really own those assets? By nature and by design, a Bitcoin account is anonymous. How does he verify that you actually own those assets? They may be in cold storage, they may be in hot storage. The auditors are going to have to learn new accounting techniques and audit techniques to be able to verify all these assets.
Today's event was a great success. We had over 150 people attend the event. Great panel discussion, lots of good questions, and a wonderful networking session. And really, that's what we do great at the CSE, not only in Montreal, but right across Canada.